Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where I've been traveling for the last few days, so I haven't played this for a while. I get back here and I'm just thinking the best way to handle this is obviously to just bring some additional fuel out there so that we can power the Poodle engines. And so that's exactly what we're going to do with this design here that I've already designed, although I do think that we should consider putting some struts in like so. It doesn't really matter what we connect these to, as long as they're connected to something down over here. But otherwise, this should be pretty much good to go. So that looks reasonably fine there. We can save this and launch this guy, I think. We've got power, we've got a connection, we've got a remote guidance unit, we've got a battery, we've got a big old reaction wheel, we've got a grabbing unit. Yeah, that should be fine. Now, I want to point out that off camera, I've already moved I actually already burned quite a bit of fuel because I was thinking about just burning fuel until we could land that thing as is. We're not to that point yet. We're at like 0.65 thrust to weight, and it's not going up very fast. So I decided to go this route. I put it back in orbit around Ike. It's in a fairly reasonable orbit. We should be able to get there relatively easily. So we're just going to launch this thing out there and we'll get it docked up, and then we'll bring that down probably in the next episode. So I just want to get this done. Let's get out of here. We're on Kill Rock, and we're going to be slightly slow off the pad, I think. 1.49? Yeah, slightly slow. But it should be fine. This is a quite light payload in comparison to what we were bringing before. I want to point out all of these do have oxidizer here, and we've got a Poodle engine on this craft. So off we go here, and we are going to start our gravity turn here. Cool. And we're just going to head directly on over to the horizon. We don't have a KER in here. That's fine. We don't honestly need one. I want to go into orbital mode and take a look at our current orbital velocity. Okay. Looks good. Going back into surface mode. You'll note I stripped the SRBs off of here as well. Those are unnecessary. What is our current apoapsis? 14 kilometers? We should probably get a little more than that. What's our orbital prograde looking like? Okay. We're still heading on over here. 20 kilometers for our apoapsis, and let's sit at surface velocity up for the time being. Cool. So we're just going to park here for now. How long until our side boosters detach? That's going to be another 30 seconds. Looks good. We have built up a lot of speed here for sure. And we're punching up through the atmosphere pretty nicely. We should move over into orbital velocity here about now, to be honest. We can see our apoapsis is decently high up. So this seems reasonably fine. I'm going to sit here for the moment. We're still kind of low for our detach event. 2, 1, and 0. Clean detach. And now we're going to head over to horizontal velocity up. Actually, we're going to coast. We're already at 130 apoapsis. This is definitely a lighter payload than we're used to launching, even though our thrust to weight wasn't quite as high. So we're going to head on over and circularize this. That'll be reasonably fine. Cool. We'll head to the node. Having a bit of trouble stopping our turn here, but we should be able to get that under control. There we go. Now we're bringing it back around. We're now officially in space, so let's go ahead and extend our antenna and our solar panels. Cool. Getting back into position here, and we'll prepare for this burn. Warping a little faster than anticipated, but there we go. 3, 2, 1, and mark. Cool. Ooh, I don't like that physics warp. We are not physics warping that. We are not physics warping this main cell. Yikes. Yikes indeed. Okay, cool. So we need to deliver basically just this tank worth of fuel. That'll be more than sufficient. But we'll probably deliver more than that, is my guess. We've got 10,000 Delta V in this, more than sufficient. So we're going to get into orbit here, and we'll be able to use a fair amount of this on our trip out to Duna. So that'll be great. 350 meters per second to go here. I would physics warp this. I really, really would. But we've got a bit of a joint weakness right here. I don't love that. So we're going to wait, and that's fine. I knew I should have run a connection from here, but alas, I did not. So here we are. We have no way to fix it at this point. We'll just have to make do. It's not a big deal. We're going to run out of fuel in this engine in 65 burn seconds anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. 2, 1, and this'll do. So that puts us into orbit, and around here or so is when we would want to start heading out towards Duna. I highly doubt that we chose a good launch time to head to Duna, but we can find out. So we'll set that as our target, and we'll just prograde our way on out. What do we got? Actually, that's kind of not terrible. It'll be here, we'll be here. So we need to leave a little bit later. We could do this after some amount of orbits. It'd be a fair number of orbits. Can we do this in the graphical maneuver editor? Yeah, we can add the orbits here, I suppose. I mean, that would be a lot of orbits. The other thing we could do is toss in some radial, or actually this direction. Does that encounter us a moon? Yep, a wild moon appears. Okay. This gets us pretty close here. We can then do an orbital adjustment out over this way. The other thing we could do, of course, instead of going that route, is we could simply delete this and start over, which I'm going to do here, because we've added in a bunch of orbits. So I'm going to delete that and start over. We're going to burn about here. And instead of looking to come in at the apoapsis, we can look to come in, like, dropping in a little bit later, right? So that would mean that we would look for our encounter to be about here. It's not a perfect timing, but that's not bad. 1240.3 meters per second. I mean, it will have to do a pretty hefty braking burn. Duna, you're supposed to be our target. There we go. We'll have to do a pretty hefty braking burn when we get there, but that doesn't seem too bad. We can do a small adjustment on our radial burn to bring this in. I'd want to, at this point, set Ike as our target. And then we would bring this in. That's a little bit... Ooh, that's sensitive. That is real sensitive. So we bring it in something like this. Ike is going this direction, so when we entered orbit, it would be about the same. But you can see here, this is definitely going to be a pretty hefty braking burn. Yeah, that's going to be a real hefty braking burn. What is that delta V-wise? 2100? That's doable. Yeah, that is doable. Okay, I think we take this. So we're going to head on over to the node here. If we can get turning. There we go. Just have to beat that momentum, right? And we can get about halfway there on our mainsail, which is pretty nice, to be sure. Okay. And we can warp on over. So I think that this is absolutely fine. I really do. We only need the fuel from this one tank to actually do our landing burn. So that would be the idea. So time warp is complete. And let's warp forward a few more seconds here. 20 seconds. 10. And now. Okay, now I don't want to warp while this mainsail is on. I'm actually going to turn the gimbal off on it. There we go. We should be fine to not have it gimbaling. Are we okay? I really don't like the way that this squishes in. Yeah, that's really non-great. So we're going to get through the remainder of this mainsail fuel, and then we'll be able to physics warp. So that'll be fine. So this external fuel out here is to get us there, plus to have hopefully a little left over to toss into the lander once we get there. It's mostly oxidizer that we're lacking, for the record. But the liquid fuel can be used in our nuclear engine as well. So that'll be fine. We're going to wrap up our mainsail burn here in 1 second. And there we go. Cool. How's this looking here? Correctly pulling fuel from all 4 sides. Perfect. And not pulling fuel from the center. That's what we want to see. Excellent. So this is going to be about a 3-minute burn here. Of course, our thrust to weight is way, way lower with this. And we're going to want to hit this burn pretty precisely, really. And hope that we don't have major warping issues like we have in the past. That'd be very, very awkward. Very, very awkward indeed. But we're going to head on through here and see how this goes. I'm going to manually warp because I'm not going to just assume that this is all correct. That would probably be a terrible idea. And let's get prepared here for this braking burn. Okay, 60 meters per second, 40, 30, 20, 10, and just gently bringing this on down. Okay, we don't have an encounter here yet. I'm going to thrust limit this engine, because this is some very sensitive work here. We're going to physics warp around over to here. What? Now we're going to warp back to the other side. Okay, physics warp is causing some rounding issues, I think. Okay, I'm burning a little bit here. Okay, let's just burn towards target. Let's ignore the maneuver. Let's see what this gets us. Okay. Let's set Duna as our target. What is our position here? Okay. This is reducing our separation. Cool. So let's thrust limit this to about 15%. Even that's a little bit on the low side. So let's bring this on up. Okay. We're bringing that straight on in here. We don't really care about what encounter we get, I suppose, but that's an encounter there. We can continue to bring this in and look to encapsulate Ike's orbit a bit. About like that. And of course, we can set Ike as our target. We're a bit above the plane. We can think about going into our normal directionality and see about changing this. Yeah, we can see just physics warping changes our orbital directionality there. Okay, we need to be on normal, not anti-normal. So let's warp on around. And that's interesting. Okay. Let's just bring that on in. So 13.7 degrees now. I think we overshot slightly. Bring that around. Yeah, this is going to be messy. 21.2 now. Okay. That's definitely messy. I think we're going to be better off fixing this in this orbit. So let's go over towards anti-target here. And let's just look to pull this out a bit. Actually, that gives us an encounter right there. A mildly awkward encounter, I think, but an encounter nevertheless. So do we currently have a moon encounter or something? Because I'm noticing that we're not getting the Ike encounter showing up. Let's take a quick look at what we've got going on here. No encounter there. We just head straight out. Okay, let's warp a bit and see if that changes. It does not. Okay, let's head over to Duna again. This does not appear to have changed. Okay. So we want to go directly over to this Ike encounter. So I'm going to warp to about... Oh, we can't auto-warp this far. Right, we need to warp to our Kerbin escape. That's what we need to do right now. So we're just going to warp forward here into our Kerbin escape, which should be here. There we go. Then we're going to head on over to Ike. And we can definitely see that we have quite an awkward periapsis here. So let's head on over. I want Ike to be our target eventually, but this is probably fine, all things considered. We're going to want to change our inclination here if we can. Okay. That's more sensitive than I thought it was going to be. Let's go over to perhaps retrograde. Ooh, that's really sensitive. Okay, back to prograde, and we're going to thrust limit this. Cool. We'll position here, and we'll bring this back in. Okay, that's pretty close inclination-wise. It's not quite where we want it to be, I'm sure, but we can always change that. So we're going to add a maneuver here, and we're going to do a braking burn. It's going to be a pretty hefty braking burn, but we knew that. This is actually a less hefty braking burn than we thought it was going to be with Duna, because I'm assuming we're essentially stealing some gravity from Ike here. So that seems good. So at this point, we just warp straight on out there. Beautiful. It's going to be a fairly lengthy warp, of course. About a year and 97 days, but we'll tick on forward here and let's go. I'll see you guys on the other side of this warp. Okay, so here we are, the warp is over, and we are actually already burning. Basically, this entire encounter, we needed to be burning. So I already got this started, and we are braking as much as we can. We do see the time to the escape is going up, so that's good. It was actually a little bit close, but we did manage to just barely squeak in there, so that's all fantastic. We literally had about 40 seconds after entering the sphere of influence of Ike before this burn started. It was definitely going to be a pretty hefty one, but we'll bring this on in. 1,200 meters per second to go. This isn't too bad. We've got plenty of delta V here, of course, and we'll have plenty to hand on over to our craft. So we're just going to enter orbit here. I'm not sure what our inclination difference is going to be. There will be a minor one, but it's probably fine. We probably don't really need to do much of a change there. Let's set this as our target. Oh, that breaks our encounter. Or rather, that breaks our maneuver. Perfect. Well, we'll just close this. I know that we need to go to retrograde. Just hold retrograde here, and we're just going to try to circularize our orbit. That's all we're doing here. Not a big deal. We've already moved through about half of this burn, actually a little over half, I think. And we've now got plenty of time before our escape. So no real issues there, but we are going to be passing the periapsis here shortly. And we'll just be looking to encapsulate this orbit, right? And as you can see, I got this into a reasonable orbit above Ike at 50 kilometers. It's got some fuel left, a lot of fuel left, but it's oxidizer that we need to refuel here, right? Not liquid fuel. 1.2 degrees off? Okay. So this is actually a kind of close encounter as is. Is that getting closer? No, it's getting further away. So what if we did target velocity up? Like burning towards target here. Would that get us closer? Because if we can combine this intercept, that would be great. No. So target velocity minus. Let's bring this around. Yep, that does the trick. Cool. So that gets us around to 2.7 kilometers. That's close enough. 26.4 meters per second relative speed. Not bad at all there. I like it. So let's warp around to here. And we'll get close to this encounter. Cool. So we can see here that we are at 11.9 kilometers here. I want to be at relative velocity minus here. But we know that we're going to need to push this onto the anti-target node in order to get this a little closer. So we're going to work on doing that. I want to be on kill rot. Thank you very much. And we're just going to very gently push this node right on over. I'm realizing now that I didn't bring any RCS, which does make me mildly sad, but we'll just do something kind of like that. I think we need to go a little this direction. Looks like we slightly overshot. There. I think that looks good. So we'll go to relative velocity minus for now. We'll probably have to do another corrective burn on the way in. Yeah, we definitely will. But we'll just warp in a little bit here. Okay. We can now see that we definitely need a corrective burn. So we are going to do exactly that, pushing the node straight on in. Okay, something kind of like this. Beautiful. 4.7 kilometers? Okay, that's a little spicy. Let's warp it on in over to here. 5 kilometers apart right now. Okay, I'm going to go over to relative velocity up, actually, because we're getting a little bit slow. We only had 26.9 meters per second to work with, right? So I want to pull this node over towards here. So we're going to pull the node over by burning about here. We're going to increase our speed towards the target. And we're just going to bring that in about like that. Then we're going to head back to retrograde. So that's a corrective burn, bringing us down to 0.6 kilometers apart. Looks great. Now we're going to warp in a little closer, keeping an eye on how far apart these nodes are. Okay. So we are going to push this node here. We definitely need to be decelerating. There we go. And we're now heading much closer to being towards the target. But I'm going to pop us up over here and just alter that trajectory just a wee bit. There we go. And now we'll go to relative velocity minus. And once we get a little bit closer, why are we tumbling? That should not be tumbling. That's potentially spicy. But we're just going to kill our relative velocity now. 6 meters per second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and... Okay, that'll work. Now we want to go over towards target. This, I think we just need to put it on kill rot, right? Yeah, that's all it needed. Okay, so that's fine. And we just need to link this up, right? So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to go on to kill rot, and things are inverted from where I expect them to be. Cool. Let's keep it on kill rot. And we're just going to head on in and look to grab on. Now, I used a grab arm, not a docking port. Maybe I should have used a docking port, but I definitely did use a grab arm. I want to rotate this guy so that these aren't facing that way. Can we retract this photovoltaic panel? No. So I think I want to actually rotate here so that we are facing like this direction so that we're not coming in on the solar panel side. Okay. Something kind of like that. That's going to be much cleaner. Okay, we're going to go in at about 0.3 meters per second right now. We might be a little bit too much verticality here. Let's bring this down about like that. Okay, and we cannot retract these photovoltaic panels, but I'm just going to crash this thing into Ike after we're done with this, so I don't really care that much about these photovoltaic panels. Let's just bring this on in and get this refueling done. Yeah, this looks reasonable. Cool. Just altering our aiming a little bit here. Really, we should be in our target relative velocity up. This is where we should be. So this is where we're going to be going, right? We're going to rotate down over this way, though, because I want to actually grab onto something. That would be nice. So we're going to do something kind of like that. That should grab. There we go. Beautiful. So now we're going to pin open these fuel tanks out over here because we are, after all, here to refuel. We know that there's going to be 8 total fuel tanks here. And I'm going to grab the 9th fuel tank separately, is the way that this is going to work. So we're going to get these guys on out over here. And I don't necessarily care where the fuel here goes, but we'll just start up over here. So we're going to do in. And then we're going to do in. Okay. So this fuel is going to be split up amongst all of these, right? We'll get that done a little bit later on. For now, we're just going to move in what fuel we can, which will be all of that, and then also in here. I don't know if that one's going to get full. It does not. Okay? So that's absolutely fine. That is all of our outer tanks now done. Cool. So now we've just got this inner tank, which should be completely fresh. And indeed it is. So that would fill up this guy. And we're not going to get these all fully full, right? Really, all I'm trying to do is get most of the fuel transferred out. I want to keep enough fuel up here so that this can crash into the surface of Ike. But for now, we're just going to do... Oh, this doesn't want to transfer. Now it's going. Okay. I want to make sure that we get all of these header tanks fully done. So we're going to get this one done next. There we go. And now we've got these two that are not currently full. And how much do we want to keep here? I think we should keep like 250. So we're going to do something kind of like this. And we're going to stop around 250 because I want to be able to crash this into the surface still. Okay, something kind of like that. This is probably not perfectly even, but that'll do for now. And yes, I'm aware that this fuel distribution isn't perfect. So that's all of the fuel that we can get out of here. So we are going to release our grabbing unit. And this guy is now going to go into retrograde. This is saying 1458 meters per second. That shouldn't be 1458, but whatever. I don't think it actually is. I think it calculated that incorrectly. This should not be 1458 meters per second. Of course, our thrust weight is quite high, so I do want to get this crashed in, and actually, here would be a pretty good spot to do so. So let's do horizontal velocity minus, and we're just going to kill our horizontal velocity, and we're just going to let this guy crash right on into the surface. We want to generate some seismic data here, ideally. And yeah, this is a reasonable spot to do so. We're basically over our outpost. Not exactly, but we don't want to bomb it, right? So this will be fine. Cool. Technically, this has 0 seconds of burn time left. How much fuel do we actually have here? I think we've got more than that, but let's just accelerate into the surface at this point. Beautiful. This is very confused about how much fuel we have. There's no doubt about that, but we're going to run out here in a moment. I just wanted to ensure that we had enough. There we go. Yeah, we have a little bit too little, or a little bit too much oxidizer over there. But now let's warp this guy right on in. And we are going to be impacting the surface here. This is exactly the goal. Coming in at a nice speed, let's generate some seismic readings. And wouldn't it be weird if this grabbed and this whole thing survived? That'd be really weird. I'm sure that's not going to happen. Kaboom. There we go. So we generated ourselves some seismic readings, 100 science generated. Perfect. That's not a catastrophic failure at all. We're going to head back to this tracking station, but it is time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we're going to get our ground station set up. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, James, Shadow Wolf, MLohan80, Rogue Corvid, Kintogan, Andy Magar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.